Bueno, muy buenos días a todas las personas que se van conectando a esta sesión informativa. Hoy vamos a estar con la Universidad de Georgetown, específicamente con el programa en el área de Derecho, y para ello nos acompaña Karin, quien es representante de esta universidad y nos va a brindar esa información de utilidad para todas las personas que están planeando llevar a cabo su programa de LLM en esta institución. Cabe mencionar que, como probablemente ustedes ya lo saben, tenemos un convenio que les puede otorgar un beneficio adicional en el valor de su matrícula. Entonces, este descuento específicamente es del 33% en el valor, como lo decía, de su matrícula para máximo tres beneficiarios de Colfuturo que ya estén admitidos a su programa de LLM. Así que si alguno desea participar para lograr este descuento del 33%, la invitación es que se postulen al programa Crédito Beca de Colfuturo, cuya convocatoria abrirá el próximo año, el 9 de enero, y cerrará el 29 de febrero. Así que tienen ese lapso de tiempo para postularse a nuestro programa con el programa de LLM de la Universidad de Georgetown. Y en ese caso, si nosotros los seleccionamos, ya la universidad decidirá si ustedes pueden ser esos acreedores del descuento del 33%. Así que sin más información adicional, le voy a dar la palabra a Karin. Sin embargo, si ustedes tienen preguntas que quieran hacerle directamente a ella, la invitación es que las escriban en la cajita de Q&A para que al final podamos responder cada una de sus inquietudes. Así que sin más introducción, thank you so much, Karin, for being here. You can go ahead and start your presentation.
Thank you very much, and thank you to CoFuturo for hosting this presentation. I'm very happy because this is the first information session that I am conducting in our new admissions year. So we have just welcomed our new class of LLM students here at Georgetown, and we're very happy to see them here. And now I am in the process of starting to talk to people who are thinking about applying either for fall 2024 or for some time down the road in the future. So it's really nice to start my new season by working together with CoFuturo to do this presentation. We've had a relationship for many years now that has brought lots of excellent students from Colombia to our LLM program here at Georgetown. So I'm going to share my screen and show a presentation. I will do that now. And I would like to, let's see here, make it screen. There we go. Okay. And we will have time for questions if you have questions, or I will also be posting my email address at the end of the presentation. So if you have questions anytime in the future, you're more than welcome to contact our office. We're going to talk generally about some reasons that you as a young lawyer in Colombia may be thinking about doing an LLM in the United States, because many of you will choose to do some further study after you finish your first degree in law. There are many reasons to do that. Perhaps you would like to develop an area of more specialization in your career rather than just working off of the general legal knowledge that you've acquired so far. You might want to add another credential to your resume to make it look a little stronger and make yourself more competitive in the legal market. You may just have finished your first degree and not feel quite ready to start working just yet, or you may have been working for a few years and realize that you need to take a break and build yourself up so that you can be even stronger as you go forward in your career. Or maybe you want to go in a little bit of a new direction. Perhaps you've been working as a general corporate lawyer for some time, but you've gotten really interested in the tax aspects and want to become a tax lawyer. Or you've been working as a litigator, but you want to start focusing on environmental issues, something like that. That's a great time to take a break and study a little bit more. Perhaps you just want to go to a new place, try something new, meet new people, experience life from a different perspective, which can really only add to your your profile as a lawyer in Columbia. It's also a great way to meet other people who are having the same interests as you or who need to benefit from your skills, creating a wider business network and developing international friendships and professional relationships. Those are all some reasons to do more studies after you complete your first degree in law. And you could do those LLM programs or master's degrees quite around the world. There are programs in Spain, in the Netherlands, in Australia, in Singapore, really almost anywhere you could go, you could do that. But why might you be thinking specifically about studying in the United States? One reason is that as the practice of law has become so international, almost everything nowadays has some cross-border or international aspect to it. And oftentimes that involves US law. Perhaps you're working with a corporation that's incorporated in the state of Delaware in the United States, or perhaps you're working on some kind of a transaction that's governed by New York law. All of those things, those are reasons why it may be helpful to you to have a better understanding of the US legal system. US law may oftentimes also serve as a model for other countries or as something to compare and contrast with as you're developing new laws in up and coming areas. Maybe that's in antitrust or in technology issues, compliance. You may need to understand the US laws in those areas and think about how those principles are or could be implemented or dealt with in your home country. Certainly working on your English and your legal English skills is another great reason to study law in the United States. So even American students, when they come to study law, need to learn how to write, read, speak, think like an American lawyer, because the study of law in the US is different from other areas of study, and the ways that lawyers write and approach problems and write about those problems is very unique. So if you are working with now or have plans in the future to work with a lot of American lawyers or interact with American clients, they may expect you to understand this method of communication, the way that they speak and talk and the way that they think about problems and ask questions. It's not just a matter of learning legal terminology in English, but more an approach and a method of communication and of thinking and of analyzing and talking about problems and their solutions. Also, if you have a qualifying law degree from Columbia and you do an LLM in the United States, as long as you take certain classes as part of that LLM, you can become eligible to take the New York bar exam. So not everybody wants to do that, but a number of our LLM students come with the hope of taking the New York bar exam, not necessarily because they want to practice as a New York lawyer, but because it's another credential that you can take back home to Columbia, and it provides even further evidence in addition to the LLM that you've spent time in the United States, that you're familiar with US law, and you can handle that being a part of the US legal environment. You also can become eligible for OPT, which stands for Optional Practical Training. If you're a student in the US on an F1 student visa, you have the option of applying for this optional practical training and staying for up to a year after your program to work in the United States in a job that's connected with your studies. So many people are interested in that opportunity as well. But I think one of the best reasons to do an LLM, and I think in the United States, although some of these reasons may apply elsewhere, you will gain certain benefits that will stay with you really for the rest of your life. And those are things that are hard to explain. It's not just taking more classes, becoming an expert in a certain area of law, but the networks that you will develop with your classmates and your professors and other people that you meet during your LLM year, those people will be your friends, your colleagues, your business partners, really into the future after you complete the LLM. It also forces you to step outside of your comfort zone, to adapt to a new place, to meet new people, to study in a completely different way, navigate a new city within a country where the native language is not the same as your own. It really expands your maturity and your just ability to deal with anything that comes your way. And I think when you have that international LLM experience on your resume, employers and other people recognize that you were willing to take that extra step to add to your experience. So those are a lot of the reasons, even not an exhaustive list, but many of the reasons why you might be thinking about doing an LLM at some point in the future. I'll talk a little bit about Georgetown Law specifically, and then I'll come back to talk more about applying to LLM programs and ways of financing the LLM. So one thing we like about our particular law school here is that it's located right in Washington, D.C., which is in the middle of where law is being made and discussed and debated and enforced on a daily basis here in the United States. Both our federal level, US-wide laws, as well as state laws, all of those things come together in Washington, D.C. And our campus is located in an easy walking distance from the Capitol, the Supreme Court, Department of Justice, all kinds of those real legal institutions, as well as being in the same city with offices of major international law firms from around the world, and things like the International Monetary Fund, the Organization of American States, the World Bank, international organizations of that sort. We always have a large LLM class here. So this year we have over 500 total LLM students, including international and US trained lawyers who come from over 65 countries around the world. It's a great way to meet people from countries where you maybe have never met someone before, you've never been, you've never heard their language. You can find that here at the law school. And we also offer one of the largest course lists of any law school in the United States. So there's so much to choose from no matter what your area of interest is in your area of specialty. We also have a careers office that works with our LLM students specifically on finding opportunities, sometimes in the United States, but also in their home countries or other countries around the world. So we have employers that will come to us from very many different places asking to see resumes of our current students. We participate in some legal employment fairs for international students and provide lots of networking throughout the academic year. Our alumni around the world, our graduates, are a big help to us as well. We have people located all around the world who are always happy to meet another Georgetown Law graduate to provide advice and assistance in developing your career. And those alumni also help us through our alumni boards, advising us what's going on in different regions of the world, what kinds of law are hot topics for practice areas, where are hiring needs of law firms and governments around the world, and how can we make sure that our graduates are prepared to meet the demands of the legal market as it is right now. We offer lots of different degree programs, specialized as well as flexible. So our most popular and most flexible program is our General Studies LLM, which really allows students to choose from our entire graduate curriculum to put together their course of study in the areas that are of interest to them. International Legal Studies and International Business and Economic Law are also very flexible, just that you would select about half of your classes more focused on international law or international business law. Our more specialized programs include energy and environmental law, national and global health law, national security law, technology law and policy, and of course, taxation law. And another way that our students can specialize is through combining a certificate with their LLM program. So not all of these certificates can be combined with all of these LLMs, but there are some logical combinations that people often take advantage of. And it really just means that within your LLM program, you take a subset of your classes focused on a particular area so that you can see the various certificates listed here: human rights, arbitration, trade law, things like that. We also do have some dual degree programs. We have a Master's of International Affairs and an LLM together with Sciences Po in Paris. That's where you spend the first year in Paris, second year at Georgetown, and earn both those degrees at the end. It takes you 2 years instead of the 3 years that it would take if you did them separately. We have a similar arrangement for an MBA or a Master's in Management and LLM with HEC Business School in Paris. We have a Global Health Law and Governance program with the Graduate Institute in Geneva. And we have a 2-year LLM with certificate in legal English. And that's really designed for people who want to spend the first year of their program studying law, but really with an intensive focus on developing your legal English skills. So sometimes students whose English scores may not quite meet the minimum requirements, but are strong otherwise and have that wish to improve their English will follow our 2-year curriculum. We've had students from Colombia in some of these programs before, definitely in our Sciences Po program, in our 2-year LLM, so something to think about. So that was all some specific information about Georgetown. For applying to LLM programs, this is the procedure that we follow here at Georgetown, and it's going to be quite similar to any other US LLM schools that you might be thinking about applying to. So most people will choose to apply to more than one program, and if that's you, then these application instructions and tips hopefully should apply to most of the programs. Of course, we hope that you would choose to apply to Georgetown. So I think one of the first maybe obvious things to do, but maybe not so obvious, is to read each different school's instructions on their websites carefully and make some sort of a timeline, because different schools have different deadlines and different requirements, and you don't want to miss an important deadline or a particular piece of information for a school that you really want to apply to. So, excuse me, maybe put together kind of a calendar so that you know what you need to do and when. And sometimes these things also take longer than you expect, so it's good to plan ahead. Here at Georgetown, we have a rolling admissions process, which means that we will begin reviewing applications usually in October. We will start making offers of admissions, and we will continue that process through the time when our class fills up. So we have an early action deadline. If you submit everything that we need by the middle of November, you should get an answer before the winter holidays. We then have a priority deadline. We encourage everyone to apply by our priority deadline in February so that you can get your answer in time to make a decision about which program to choose. You want to have that information by, April, because if you're thinking of more than one school, they will start asking you to choose the school in April. And also, if you would like to be considered for scholarships here, we do ask you to please apply by our priority deadlines so that we have time to consider you and to still have funding left in our scholarship budget. Even after the priority deadline, we do keep our application open until July, but it's not a good idea to wait till the very end. First of all, because of scholarship availability, and just because it's not a fast process to prepare to study in the United States. So you want to make sure you try to apply as early as possible so that you have plenty of time to make your plans for your LLM program. Georgetown, as well as most schools, uses an online application through the LSAC, the Law School Admissions Council. You need to go to their website and create an account, and then you can complete forms online through their site and submit materials just one time, your original transcripts and things like that, to the LSAC. They will then authenticate those pieces of paper and make scanned copies that they send out to all the schools where you are applying. So that can help save you time and money by only having to send your original documentation one time to one address, rather than collecting multiple copies, multiple translations, and shipping them to multiple schools. We also, on our site, we do have the option, if you're only applying to Georgetown, to use our paper application. We still recommend the LSAC process, as it's more efficient for you and for us. But if you decide to use our paper application, you can download that from our website. Almost all schools require the same materials that we do here. We ask you, of course, to fill out the application form, and there's an application fee as well. We also ask you to send in original copies plus translations, if they're not originally in English, of all your transcripts of university level or higher. So we need to have all of those in our files before we can begin reviewing your application. Letters of recommendation. Here at Georgetown, we ask for 2 letters. Some schools may require 1, some may be more than 2, and some may ask you specifically to have one be from a professor and another from a work-related recommender. Here we do not require that, but you're welcome to submit letters of recommendation from academics or from people that you have worked for. Just choose people who know you well enough to be able to write based on their personal experience, to write about your qualities that make you a good student and a good lawyer. We also ask you to submit a copy of your resume or your CV with up-to-date information about everything that you have done and where you've studied. We also require a TOEFL or IELTS test. At Georgetown, our test score requirements is 100 points on the TOEFL or 7.5 on the IELTS. Other schools may have slightly different requirements, but you should be able to find that on their resume or on their websites. And finally, the personal statement. So that is the biggest part of your application, and it's really the place where you can speak directly to the LLM application committee and tell them more about yourself, why you're doing the LLM, why you would be a good candidate for the program, and all of those types of things that they cannot figure out from the rest of your application. Of course, now it's very easy to have help with your essay by using some kind of artificial intelligence or having somebody else write it or pulling something off the internet. Please don't do those things. We really want to know, and we don't care if your English is perfect, or we don't care if you don't think that you've had an exciting life to write about. We just really want to hear from you. And we appreciate something that's been written by you and that talks about your own life, your own reasons for wanting to do the LLM. I think most schools would agree with me on that. I do see there are some questions coming in, so I will get to those, but I'll first kind of finish up the presentation and then track back to look at these questions in more detail. So another important factor, and one of the reasons that we've partnered with Colfuturo, is that the cost of doing an LLM in the United States is quite high. So it's more expensive in the United States than it is in many other countries. So when you are thinking about doing an LLM, it's also wise to think about how you are going to pay for it. One organization that you may be aware of is Fulbright, which is a US government-sponsored scholarship for foreign students who want to study in the United States. They have a quite long application process, so if you're thinking about studying with a Fulbright scholarship, that's something to look into well in advance. but they often provide not only some tuition assistance, but living stipends as well. Fulbright usually also works out of the Education USA office, and I'm quite sure there is one in Bogota. And they can also provide information about other scholarships that might be available for you as a Colombian student wanting to study law in the United States. We also have Colfuturo, and we have our special arrangement with Colfuturo, as you already heard at the beginning of the presentation, where students who are selected by Colfuturo for funding to come to Georgetown can also receive a 1/3 tuition discount, 33% tuition discount from Georgetown. Sometimes I will tell you that the process for awarding scholarships at Georgetown is a bit ahead of the process of Colfuturo selecting their recipients. So it may be that you will receive some scholarship discount from Georgetown before you receive the answer from Colfuturo. That is not a problem. You still have access to, if you are selected from Colfuturo, to that funding, but you may have already received the 1/3 tuition discount from us, or perhaps you've even received a higher discount. Maybe you've gotten already a 50% discount. In that case, that is your discount. We are not going to add another 30% on top of that. But if you have not already received a discount from us and you are selected by Colfuturo, then we will honor that 1/3 scholarship agreement. Happy to answer more questions about that later if that was confusing. But I think one important thing to keep in mind is that doing the LLM in the United States is an investment in your career and really in your own personal growth. Our graduates who I meet around the world every year will tell me over and over again that it was one of the best years of their life and that it has changed the course of their career over the rest of their professional lifetime. So don't think about it as something that you are going to spend money this year and get that money back next year in a new salary or something like that. That will not happen. It will take time for your investment to pay off, but it is an investment that our graduates tell us over and over again was an investment worth making. Oops. So in addition to the types of scholarships we discussed previously with Colfuturo, we also have some other types of scholarships here at Georgetown, and many schools will have similar opportunities that you can find on their website. The most common is a general merit-based scholarship that we consider all of our admitted students as possible recipients of this scholarship based on the strength of their application. So we look at your grades, at your professional experience, what schools you attended, things like that. And we'll offer a partial discount based on those merit factors. For those of you who are tax lawyers, we have a scholarship called Graduate Tax Scholars. We give that out. It's a full tuition scholarship, usually 5 to 10 students per year, which includes both U.S. educated and foreign educated lawyers are selected to be tax scholars. We also have an International Arbitration Scholars Program that provides a generous scholarship every year to about 5 entering students, international students who have a strong background in and interest in international arbitration. For environmental law, global health law, national security law, we also do give merit-based scholarships in those areas as well. And you can check out our website for other kinds of opportunities that might be available to you. So we have here our email address. If you would like to email us at any time, the top address is the best one for general information because that goes directly to our LLM admissions office and they will be able to help you. But you can also reach me directly at CMB26, the second address here, or my colleague Jessica at the third address, JFB520. So we would be happy to hear from any of you. And I am going to check these questions that are in the chat right now. Lady, would you like me to just go ahead with that, or do you want to say something before I do that?
I just want to say thank you for the presentation before the questions. Thank you for all the useful information.
Great. Okay, so one person is asking, how easy is it to get a job after finishing the LLM program? So that's a very good question. It does not have a simple answer because a lot of it will depend on what kind of job you're looking for, where you want to work, and what kind of previous work experience you have. So typically students who come to us from Colombia come after they have been working for at least a couple of years, not always, but usually. And definitely having some previous work experience can help you in terms of finding your next job after the LLM. That's both jobs outside the United States and jobs inside the United States. I can tell you that many students come hoping to find a job in the United States and are not able to do that because the job market is very competitive. We have a lot of competition for American trained lawyers to find jobs, and then the students who come from outside the United States have a little bit different profile, and those jobs are competitive as well. In general, I would say having previous work experience and also looking for a job in an area where it can be advantageous to you to be from Colombia or your particular country. Maybe there's a kind of business that you worked with previously that you want to keep working with. Take advantage of your resume and the specific strengths that you have, and also be willing to consider different kinds of jobs, maybe for nonprofits or for a business, or working in a different city. Maybe you want to work in New York City, but maybe you will get a job in Houston, something like that. So it is not easy to get a job in the United States, no matter where you do your LLM in the US, but it is possible, it does happen. And there are lots of ways you can improve your chances by taking advantage of getting experience beforehand, but also networking opportunities and really working together with our career advisors when you are at your LLM to improve your chances of getting a job. So someone also asked about a course to improve English legal communication skills. We do not have a program here at the law campus specifically based on English. We do have in our School of Continuing Studies or main campus of Georgetown University various English programs that you would have to apply to separately. But we also do have an online legal English program. I don't have the details of that with me right now, and I'm not sure if it may even be available for free, but I can try to find out about that and send that information through Lady if that's something that can be shared with the attendees. I see there's a question here about this criteria selecting the 3 Colfuturo students for the discount. Maybe we can save that one for the end, and we can both talk about that. On the letters of recommendation, I see a question here. So my main advice for letters of recommendation is that it's most helpful if you receive the letter from someone who has worked with you, either as your professor or maybe a teaching assistant, thesis advisor, somebody who has employed you at the university as a research assistant, something like that, or from a supervisor at a law firm that you have worked with. It is not very helpful to us if we get something from a family friend or from somebody who maybe worked with you in a completely different context, like I don't know, maybe you also volunteer your time at an animal shelter. Like, that's nice to know, but it's not so helpful for us as an academic or professional reference. So it's more important that it's someone who's worked with you closely, and that it's somebody who's like important or something It doesn't have to be the president of the country. It can be the senior associate who supervised you at your law firm. So hopefully that helps. The translation of transcripts should be an official one, either coming from your university directly or from like a professional translating service. It cannot be your own personal translation. TOEFL exam. So someone is asking about the minimum scores, which I mentioned is 100, and whether there is in each of the sections. So we do look for a 25 in each section. We will give some leeway there, but not a large amount. So maybe you have a 23 in one section and a 27 in another section, and your total is 100. That's probably fine. But if you have a 99 and one of your sections is a 19, you know, that's challenging. That would be, I would suggest taking it again. If you have a 96, should you apply and go ahead with that? 96 could mean a 24 in each section, I guess. You could apply with that. It will be better to have a higher score. It's always good to have as high a score as possible because the committee will feel more certain about you. Sometimes if it's a lower score, they may hold on to your application for longer. They may require some extra steps, like maybe an interview or something like that. But try to get the minimum if possible. So Georgetown rarely grants full tuition 100% scholarships. We have some programs, such as our Graduate Tax Scholars Program or our Global Health Law Program, that sometimes offer a full tuition scholarship. But those are really the only instances. Otherwise, we will offer partial tuition scholarships, which may be half tuition or a little bit more than half tuition, sometimes a little bit less. But aside from specific programs that say 100% scholarship, we don't usually offer 100%. The average age of our LLM students for international students is usually around 27, and for US educated students is usually 33-ish. So if you combine those together, the total average age of all LLMs is probably around 28, 20, something like that. And as far as improving your chances of being admitted, I think if you are still studying, making sure you continue to get good grades is important. And if you are not sure about your grades, a good way to overcome grades that might be a little lower is to get very good work experience, a few years of work experience, to beef up your resume that way. I think applying early, as I mentioned, is a good way of improving your chances of being admitted and also of scholarship consideration. So do not wait till the last minute. And yeah, I think making sure your TOEFL score is as high as possible, all of those things will help you. So going back to the question about the CoFuturo, I don't know, lady, maybe you would like to speak about the criteria that you use in your office.
Sí, digamos que para responder esta pregunta, como lo decía al inicio de la presentación, para poder acceder a este beneficio del 33% del descuento, deben hacerlo por medio de Colfuturo, es decir, que se postulan al programa Crédito Beca y si Colfuturo bajo su criterio de selección, que ya se los voy a explicar muy brevemente, lo selecciona, ya nosotros enviamos ese número de estudiantes, que puede ser 10, 20, 3 estudiantes, lo enviamos directamente a la universidad y ellos ya tienen como su criterio adicional con los que escogen esas 3 personas finales. Sin embargo, hablando del criterio de Colfuturo, para que nosotros lo seleccionemos, se evalúan 4 variables. La primera es el programa de posgrado al cual se están postulando. Es una evaluación por medio de rankings internacionales sobre cómo está posicionado ese programa. La siguiente variable o criterio que se califica es el promedio del pregrado, entonces el famoso GPA, ese es el que tenemos en cuenta también a la hora de que ustedes se postulan. El tercer criterio es un factor de ajuste que puede ser reconocimientos académicos del pregrado, como becas, tesis laureada, grado meritorio, o si ustedes ya tienen carta de admisión al programa, eso también puede ayudar en ese factor de ajuste. Y por último, el último criterio es el ensayo. Nosotros tenemos pues un ensayo aparte de lo que nos mencionaba Karin de las letter of our recommendations. Son diferentes. Nosotros tenemos nuestro propio ensayo y ahí es donde ustedes nos cuentan pues quiénes son, por qué escogieron ese programa de maestría o de doctorado y cuál es el proyecto conforme terminen el programa. Entonces, esos serían los cuatro criterios que maneja Colfuturo para seleccionarlos y ya más adelante nosotros enviamos esos nombres a la universidad y la universidad ya toma la decisión final de esas tres personas.
And I would say usually once CoFuturo has selected its recipients, we will um, agree with their recommendation. If the student has already been admitted, we will agree with their recommendation and provide the discount to the 3 students that CoFuturo has selected. Now, one thing that we had some confusion about this year, which maybe we can clarify here, we had some students who were selected for CoFuturo who had already received some scholarship from Georgetown, and then they said they did not want to accept the CoFuturo funding because I think they felt, well, they already received some merit scholarship from Georgetown, so they did not want to take the loan. I think that's the reason, but, and lady, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but if that is your situation, if you hear from Georgetown before CoFuturo and you receive scholarship assistance and you don't need the CoFuturo loan anymore, maybe you should withdraw your CoFuturo application. So to give other people the chance. Or if you still would like to receive the loan funding from CoFuturo plus the scholarship, that is fine. But I don't know if you want to add to that.
It's correct what you said. It's
Yeah.
what happened this year.
So that's the timing can be a little bit tricky, but we want to do our best. Both our organization want to do the best to make sure that all students who need funding have access to what they need. So somebody's asking about number of years of previous work experience, and we don't have a requirement. I think it is a personal decision. I think that, I think personally, if it's possible to do at least 2 years of work, I think that helps you for many reasons. One is it gives you more professional experience that provides context and perspective for your further studies. It may have helped you realize that there are certain skills that you want to develop further or certain areas of interest that you want to improve. Also, it gives you some time to save some money and to help with the cost of the LLM program. And it may give you some time to establish a relationship with a law firm in case that law firm wants to help you with financing your studies. So there are some law firms that may give you a loan if you come back to work with them afterwards or things like that. So there's no requirement for a specific amount of work experience, but it can be helpful. And also, as I mentioned before, it looks good on your resume when you're looking for the jobs afterwards. The cost of the LLM, as I said, is quite high. Georgetown's tuition is about $78,000 for 1 year, and the living expenses is probably another $30,000 on top of that. So it is really important to have that all figured out. It's not a good idea to assume that you can spend less money on your living costs than the school estimates, because usually the estimate from the school is a low estimate. So if we say $30,000 and you say, well, I can live with $20,000, probably that's going to be very challenging. And we never want anybody to be stressing about money when they have a lot of other things to be worried about. So you need to get all that financing figured out ahead of time. The scholarships that we apply to at Georgetown are in the form of tuition discounts. So if we have, say, tuition is $78,000 and you are awarded a 1/3 tuition discount through the Colfuturo agreement, that would be 1/3 off of the $78,000. And if you get a merit scholarship before you're selected by Colfuturo, let's say you get a half tuition scholarship, that is, again, that's in the form of a 50% tuition discount. That's higher than the 1/3 tuition discount. So we would not add another 1/3 on top of that 50% discount. It would stand at 50%. Even if you're selected by Colfuturo, we will not decrease your scholarship to 1/3. We will keep it at 50%. I see, can you explain how the IFC fellowship works? But I am actually not familiar with that one. I'm not, maybe, yeah, I'm not really sure what IFC fellowship is. So Maria, maybe you can say where you saw that and I can find out more about it. Any other questions or things that I have?
I guess we do not have more questions, but I would like to ask you, like, what would be the piece of advice that you can give the students that want to apply and want to have a successful admission? What would be that advice from your experience?
So I think so having, besides good grades, good TOEFL, and good work experience, I think applying early in the process. I think if you have the opportunity to attend any of these kinds of information sessions, it's also nice because you can start thinking now about what you are looking for in an LLM program so that you can explain that more in your personal statement, show some understanding of what the program is about and what you want to get out of it. And then keep in touch with other kinds of events maybe that the admissions office is having. So we do have an events calendar on our page. We don't currently have a trip to Bogota scheduled, but I would imagine we will be coming there sometime in February or March. So we will have a personal, in-person information session. Maybe we can coordinate that even with Colfuturo when we come. But things like that. But early, do your best on the application and demonstrate to the committee that you have an understanding of what the program entails and why you want to do it.
Good, thank you. Then we have a Maria, and that's information of
Postgraduate fellowship. Okay. Okay, so that is something for after you finish the LLM. When you've been an LLM student at Georgetown, you can apply during your second semester for if you are able to get a job either at the IFC or some other post a specified place in a public interest job after graduation, then you can receive some financing to help you, because a lot of times those kinds of jobs either don't pay very much or maybe they don't pay as much as like a law firm. So you may need a little bit of extra assistance. So that's for graduates of the program who are successful in getting those jobs.
Good, thank you. So I guess that right now we don't have more questions. So I just want to say thank you again for the time, for the presentation, for answering all the questions. And we hope we have a successful admission process for all the participants and have a great day. Thank you again for being here.
Thank you for organizing it. And it's a great way for me to start off my admission season. And thank you to Colfuturo for always being such a good partner. And looking forward to, we have usually Colombia is in our top 10 countries of our class. So we hope that will continue into the future. Thank you very much.
Our pleasure. We hope that.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.